Hi, everyone. I'm Kyler from the Content Mix, and I'm really excited to be here with Oliver S. Bauer, Senior Digital Marketing Manager and Social Selling Program Manager for EMEA at Allianz Global Investors. As a global leader in active asset management, Allianz Global Investors, also known as Allianz GI, strives to solve and not sell while adding value that goes beyond pure economic gain. And Oliver is one of the driving forces behind supporting sales reps at Allianz and finding the right customers for the company. As a social selling program manager, he empowers Allianz GI's sales team to efficiently grow and leverage their social networks to gain visibility, leveraging the power of content and social media along the way. With many, many years of experience in marketing within the asset management industry, it's an absolute honor to have Oliver on our show today. So without much further ado, I would like to welcome Oliver. Thank you so much for joining us on the Content Mix.
Thanks for having me, Kyla. Thank you.
So just to get started, could you tell our listeners a bit more about, I know I gave you the introduction, but there's still more to learn about you. So can you tell our listeners a bit more about yourself, who you are, where you're from?
Sure. As Carla just said, I'm Oliver. I'm German. I'm coming from Frankfurt, the well-known financial hub in Germany. Actually, it's not just a financial hub these days. It's also a great place for startups and the digital industry as well nowadays. I'm in my early 50s. So to be precise, 52. And I'm part of the digital marketing unit at Allianz Global Investors. Allianz Global Investors is one of the asset management firms of Allianz Group, the big insurance company. With regards to content marketing, by the way, as you just mentioned this, I did a lot of content creation during my career in the last 25 years. But today, actually not so much. I don't create so much content on my own. So my focus is more on helping to distributing and to share the great content we produce every day.
That's fantastic. So you kind of got involved in marketing. How did that come about? Just through university or through general interest?
Actually, I was never on university. So to be very honest, my mom was with a bank. My dad was with a bank as well. And I was the trustee of our class fund for many years. So it was pretty clear right from the start that I will go to a bank. And that was what happened then. So after my apprenticeship with Deutsche Bank, I served there for 4 years as an investment advisor for various group of clients, private clients, and small business or high network individuals. And during that time, as an investment advisor, I oftentimes recommended investment funds. And I have to say, I really fall in love at that time with this instrument. And I thought to myself, well, I guess there is a golden future for investment funds. It was in the mid-90s, so 94, so gosh, I'm old. And then on a Friday afternoon, I saw a job advertisement on a printed newspaper, really printed. And it was an asset management firm in Frankfurt looking for a junior marketing manager. And the good thing was that they didn't look for an experienced marketeer, but someone who, acts as an advisor, so who knows how it is to sell something, to sell funds. Well, I applied, and a few months later, I started within asset management and marketing. So that's the story.
Is history. Yeah, so
exactly right.
An opportunity came up, and you chased it. And also, you said you didn't go to university, and I love that. I think university isn't for everybody, right? So you always can still chase dreams and, accomplish things without that necessarily. Which I think is fantastic.
I guess today it's much more harder without university.
Yeah.
And I realized after 1 or 2 years that it's quite hard to learn marketing without any theoretical background. So I did some evening school courses to polish my theory knowledge. But I'm also convinced that marketing comes from your heart, should come from your heart. If you don't have marketing inside you, you will never be a good marketing. How many courses you will ever do? That's
exactly. There's so much you can learn in a classroom, but you actually have to go out and have passion and chase your dream.
Exactly right.
It's so totally important. Agree. Now, a question that we ask a lot of our guests on the show is kind of to learn more about what their typical day of work is like. And this is a question that's come up because of the pandemic and, everything's been kind of flipped upside down. So what's a typical day at Allianz Global Investors like? And what are your areas of responsibility?
Well, actually, to be honest, it's not doing podcasts every day. So this is very rare, but excited to be here today. More seriously, I mean, if you work in asset management, it's mandatory to be informed about financial markets. So one of the first things in the morning is to check what's going on the markets. But to be very honest, my first view goes to LinkedIn. I do this with my iPad from bed. So a week after I wake up, I have my iPad and checked what's going on LinkedIn. It's a really bad habit. And actually, it's also the last habit I do, or the last action I do on the evening before going to sleep. I can't recommend this, to be honest, but I'm a bit addicted to social selling, to the platforms, or checking out what's new on my newsfeed. To have new profile visitors, connection requests, and all these stuff. However, in the meantime, before morning and in the evening, I'm also focusing on social selling on our program. And this includes a lot. I mean, a big part is to do a lot of one-to-one talks with my, let's say, internal clients, which are the salespeople, to help them to survive on social, in particular on LinkedIn. But it's also a lot of meetings with our channel marketing teams and content marketing teams. It's fueling our content library. It's discussion with compliance departments, GDPR officers to improve. It's staying up to date, what's going on. Social selling is continuously changing. So you have to be, before the wave, so to say. That's more or less. And as I said, it's not my only job. I'm part of the digital marketing team, so I'm also part of some other project when it comes to web pages, more supporting our experts on this. So actually, my focus is on social selling and the program.
That's fantastic. It seems like your job is very dynamic. So you have a lot of, opportunities to work with different people, work with different teams, and collaborate, which is so important.
Yeah, that's true. And this was a great experience for me. I have to say, I was with German companies for most of my career. And in the past, when it comes to English, I was always nervous. And then I started this program. And I mean, my clients are across the EMEA region, from the Nordics to Spain, from Italy to France and the UK, of course, Germany as well. So a lot of English talking, a lot of talks with different kind of people, because there are different mentalities in the Nordics or in Spain, where you're located. So that's quite interesting. Yeah.
For sure. Well, if I could speak German like you do English, I'd be doing podcasts in Germany all the time. You have nothing to worry about.
Well, maybe next year then.
And one thing too I want to emphasize is that definitely follow Oliver on LinkedIn. He does share a lot of great content and he's very active as well. Could you just tell us a bit more? Because you showed me your Friday music posts. Can you just tell us briefly about that?
Well, that's actually more private stuff, so it's not related so much with the company. But and it was initially a former colleague who shared some songs based on a YouTube video via a closed WhatsApp group. And I asked him, well, would you be happy to do this on LinkedIn? I guess it could be great content. And he said, well, no, I want to stay with WhatsApp, but not so much on LinkedIn. And then I asked him, well, can I do this? And he said, well, happy to see this. And so I thought about a bit of this concept. And well, actually, since roughly 2 years now, I share every Friday a song. I have to say, 80s stuff, a lot.
Which I love, so.
So songs which mean something to me, where I can tell some anecdotes from my life. But I try also to combine it with some things happening on the markets, or also within our firm or in society. And in the meantime, I have some followers there, a good fan base. I mean, Friday afternoon at 5 p.m., it's not the best time to publish something. But this content, I guess, works quite well at that time, because people slowly coming into the weekend mood. And yeah, that's my Friday night listener series. Thanks for mentioning it.
No, I do love it because it's not, well, I do love 80s music, so that's probably why I like it a lot. But also I think it shows really well kind of how LinkedIn has evolved. I think I had a guest on recently who was talking about how LinkedIn has become a really great resource for people to connect. And it's not just about business all the time. You can share this content and you reach people and, I don't know, kind of build a community, which when I first started on LinkedIn, when I graduated university, it was kind of just like, okay, you need this to network and connect, and that's it. But I think over time, it's really become a fantastic platform.
That's true. I mean, 5 years ago or some years more, it was more a platform to put your CV on. The summary of all people starts with, "I'm the best sales guy on earth. Please hire me," something like this.
Right.
This has completely changed. There is an agenda from LinkedIn, of course, but today it's a marketing and sales tool. It's a publishing tool. And you can also have a lot of fun there. It's not just business. A business can include fun as well, I have to say.
For sure.
My experience.
Now, this is a great transition into the main topic of our podcast today. So whenever we have an expert in any kind of area or field, we always ask them if they could do a deep dive with us. Now, as we said before, Oliver is an expert in social selling. So we're going to talk a bit more about that and kind of what is it. So what is social selling? Could you explain to our listeners kind of, it's a hard question, right, to answer, but what is it and why is it so important?
It's indeed. It sounds like an easy question, but it's not. So maybe let me start with what it is not. Okay. Because there are a lot of misunderstandings when it comes to social selling. Maybe the term selling is not the best, but it's not social media marketing. Okay. That's a completely different thing. But people oftentimes mix up, and also they ask, for example, for KPIs. Which comes from social media marketing. And they asked me, okay, what are your social selling KPIs? Can we use the same? And it's, I have to say, it's completely nonsense. I found a definition, and I want to read it literally, which I really like. It's a definition that's called: social selling is a strategy that uses social media as a way to leverage your network, build and strengthen trusted relationships, and build influence as a way to create a solid personal brand and ultimately increase sales. So in short, I would say social selling is sales. Okay. But it's not the hard sales. It's not hi, I have a great product, please buy. Some people still try this, but it's they will fail, of course. It's more the traditional way of sales, as it was maybe 50 years ago, when salespeople really listened to their clients, really understand their needs, not pushing the products which they have to sell, but really think about what is the best solution for them. This is where all starts. So, in fact, it's about relationship management, and this is more or less the heart of it, I would say. And I guess you have asked why it's important. I mean, in the meantime, when it comes to the buying process, based on digitalization, you can find so many information about the product or services online. So the information advantage salespeople had in the past, they are gone to a certain extent. And I mean, just think about Amazon. I mean, there is no salesperson between you and the product. There are the recommendations of other buyers, of course, which is an important topic. Of course. But there is no human being. I mean, it depends on the business, of course. When you talk to, for example, institutional clients with cross-border things and tax and all these things, then it's more a consultant role instead of selling. But digitalization, of course, is a catalyst for the topic of social selling. And I'm pretty sure if you're not able to master social media as a sales rep, you are dying species. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, it's so important. And it's like a more human approach to sales. You know, you have more human, you're looking at relationships, you're building relationships with potential clients. So it's definitely more not like your traditional hard sale of going in hard and.
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, the platform is based on zeros and ones, right? It's a digital platform like our screen right now.
Right.
But at the end of the day, there is a human being.
Exactly.
There's a person you talk to, and there are emotions and all these stuff. So actually, social selling mirrors the traditional sales approach into the digital world. Yeah. You have to learn to do it a bit differently, but some general things still apply. So, for example, you can do people a favor in real life. You can do people a favor on LinkedIn. For sure. You can share great content in real life. You can do this on LinkedIn and all these things. And this is what it's all about.
That's so important. And I think it's very easy now to forget that people actually exist on the other side of your screen. So it's really important that we remember that and emphasize that.
Especially when you're in your home office. I mean, my last day in the office was the 4th of March, 2020. So since roughly 1 year and a half, I'm in the home office, never seen a colleague in real life. So that's true. And I guess that was also a challenge for the salespeople. No longer meetings were possible. So they have to do this all online. And as you said, you never forget it's a human being at the other end of the screen.
And do you all plan on going back to the office, or is it fully remote now?
Well, it depends a bit. And we still have limited capacity at Allianz Global Investors. The numbers in Germany looks quite good so far. Good. But let's see how it will be after the summer break when all the people come back from holiday. If we have a fourth wave.
Or not.
So maybe
Up in the air.
actually the plan is to be back in the office after the summer break.
That's good.
More often.
Fingers crossed for that. Now, we talked in the beginning about how you got into marketing, but now we kind of want to know, how did you specialize in social selling and what kind of drove you to become passionate about it?
Well, that's quite a funny story, I have to say. It was in January 2015 when my boss was Jan at that time. He asked me, Oliver, would you be happy to run a pilot on social selling? And I have to say, my eyes widened and I asked, social what? What are you talking about? What is it? And why me? Because I realized it has to be something with social media. And I said, right, I'm not a digital native. So why you ask me? There are younger people there. So why I'm the one? And today I have to say, at that time, very wise words, because he said, and it touches what we just discussed. And he said, well, it's not so much about technology in first instance. It's about people. It's about processes. It's about our business. You're an extroverted guy. You're able to encourage people, to enlighten them in a positive way. And this is the reason why you're the perfect person. And the bit of tech stuff, which you're not aware of, well, you can learn this. It's not such a big deal. Well, I was a bit nervous in the beginning. I have to say I was not sure if I can master this. But well, today I'm running the program for some years now. And why I became passionate about it, it was a similar story to the one with the funds from the 90s when I fall in love with investment funds. Okay. So they give me the freedom to really dive into the topic, to do some research on LinkedIn, what it's really about. And I started to create the first educational slides for all people, how to create a perfect profile and all these stuff. And then I realized, well, social selling could be a game changer for sales and marketing in 2015, I have to say. So ahead of the curve. And and then the pilot was quite successful. So we decided to transform the pilot into a sustainable program. And I really love this approach, I have to say.
That's fantastic. And it proves to you that like your soft skills are really important, even though you can't. You know, you have a great personality, you have good relationship building skills, and then you learn the technology along the way. So it's so important.
For a program manager, for the social selling itself, it depends because there are different approaches there. So not each and every social seller do the same stuff. There are some people publishing a lot, but there are also people publishing never stuff, but they're doing just research. And then try to reach out the old school way to people. So there are different routes.
Approaches to
it. You can also be a great social seller when you have a more introverted personality. But as a program manager, to motivate the people all the time, to train them, which is part of the job, then you have to be a bit extroverted.
And motivating for sure. Now this is the content mix. So of course we're interested in content marketing, and I wanted to kind of know, where does that fit into social selling? So like, why are content creators and content marketing important in social selling, and where do they fit into the bigger picture?
Yeah, I would say, I mean, it's not the core of social selling, because the core is about relationships. But on the other hand, you're right. We're not talking about Tinder here, right? We're talking about LinkedIn and business relationships. And I mean, a relationship means that you add value to this relationship. What does this mean, add value? As said, you can do people a favor. You can say happy birthday. You can send them a virtual Christmas card. But this is not really improving a good relationship. So you have to add value, and then content comes into play. So you have to create or share great content, which really is important for your readers, for your audience.
Right.
And therefore, as a company having a social selling program, you need great content creators. To be very honest, in our industry, I mean, salespeople are great in storytelling, but there are some, but most of them are not able to create content like economists or like fund managers or product specialists. Of course not, because they are salespeople, right? So therefore, it has to be a good mix and a good cooperation between the content creators and the people who share it with the audience.
So it goes hand in hand, essentially, that relationship.
Of course. And let me add at that point of view, oftentimes people, when they talk about sharing content, they think about creating own posts. The reality is that it's much, much better to comment on other people's posts.
It is.
So much is already said on LinkedIn. I said 90% is already there. And if you comment in a positive way, and I mean not saying great read, thank you for sharing. I mean, really give content to the discussion and to give adding value. Exactly. That is also content marketing, of course. So my recommendation is for every post you want to publish, you should at least comment 4 times on other people's stuff. And when it comes to own content, I guess it's also super important to understand. It's not a good idea just to share corporate content.
Right.
Because if you do this, you transform into, let's say, another boring corporate channel, and people want to connect with people and not so much with brands. When it comes to social media, that's why we call it social. So a good formula could be to share 25% corporate content, 25% business content in a wider area, and 50% content which comes from your heart, created by you, for example, Friday night listeners, or something similar. So
I'm
it should
taking
be a
note
good
of
mixture.
that. Adding that to my checklist.
But as said, it all depends, and this is maybe one of the most golden rules. It all depends on your audience and the expectation of the audience. You do it not for yourself. I mean, you do it for your audience, for your clients, the people you're connected to. So you really should think about in what kind of content they are interested in, because otherwise you produce content and nobody is interested in. Makes no sense, right? It's just time consuming then.
Now, when I was preparing this interview, and usually when it's like a topic, a deep dive, I usually try to do some research and kind of make sure I'm, aware of what's going on as well. But a metric that kept coming up was something called the Social Selling Index, or SSI. So I kind of wanted to ask you, why is this important or relevant, and what are the key components which would impact a score in this index?
Yeah. Well, the SSI, I still remember a Christmas party, and I talked to some people and said, do you know what your SSI is? And there was quite discussion afterwards, because so much fun about the SSI. So what is this about? The Social Selling Index is available for everyone nowadays. You can access it via linkedin.com/sales/SSI, and then you can see it. It goes up to 100. It's based on 4 pillars. Each of them counts up to 25. It's about how you have set up your profile, how professional your profile is designed, so to say. Do you have a profile picture on it, a background picture? Do you have a summary? Then it's about your network, how this is composed, so how many people you have, what kind of hierarchies. Do you have a lot of managing directors, for example? Or just your peers, in all honesty. The most important thing is, I would say, how active you are on the platform. And this is a bit of, I wouldn't say a problem, but the longer you stay on LinkedIn, the more active you are, the higher the SSI is. The higher the SSI, the more the algorithm will reward you with reach, which again increases your SSI. So I'm not 100% convinced on that concept. It's a bit, you can use it for gamification, of course, because sales reps, they love always competition.
Yes.
So you can always talk. So what's about your SSI?
Mm-hmm.
And it gives, of course, some ideas when you look at the 4 pillars, which is the area where you have the most room to improve. If you have a poor profile, for example, or not such a perfect network, this gives some indication. But similar to what I've just said, to be a good social seller, you don't need a high SSI. That's I guess that's important to know. I said one colleague of mine, he was in a certain client group responsible for. He never was active. He was actually he was invisible. He has a profile, but just 200 people on his network. He just wanted to be connected with people he met in real life.
Right.
And he said the more exclusive it is, the better it is. So his SSI was, I don't know, maybe 30 or so, maybe 35. But with the help of Sales Navigator, maybe we touch this later, with the help of Sales Navigator, he did a lot of research and find the right people. And as said, then he reached out to them via a classic email or met on a fair or whatever.
Right. So it really depends on how you approach it. And I think we get kind of obsessed with metrics a lot of the time. And I think like what you're saying before about the content and the percentage of what content should be corporate, I think those things are really helpful rather than kind of obsessing over an index and kind of a number that we can't control. Now, so a fun fact for our listeners is that I met Oliver at a networking event. So not only do I host this Content Mix podcast, but we also have quarterly networking events online, because we kind of shifted to, because originally, as some of the listeners I'm sure know, Content Mix was an in-person networking event really based in Madrid. But with the pandemic, we've kind of expanded, and now we're kind of having an online event. And hopefully when things get back to normal, we'll kind of take it maybe to other countries. So we have goals with it. But as of now, our virtual networking event is what brought Oliver and I together, which is great. So I kind of wanted to ask you about how the pandemic, in your opinion, and the shift to online networking and relationship building has it made social selling more important than ever before? Like, what do you think about that?
Well, honestly, there couldn't be two opinions about this. I mean, the pandemic acts as a catalyst for all this stuff. But I have some problems to use this argument, to be honest, because the pandemic brought so much pain to people, so many deaf people across the globe. So I really don't like to say, well, based on the pandemic, we have seen a great increase in social selling. It's the reality, but I don't want to talk about this, I have to say. I guess we have to demystify a bit social selling. It's something which is should be part of the sales process today. And you have to weave in within your traditional sales approach. And it's more triggered by digitalization and artificial intelligence, as I said before. So let's face it. I mean, if you have a product which you can easily exchange, so the question is, do we really need salesperson for this if the product is not super complicated? That's really the question. So if you are able to be a good social seller, I guess that could be your lifesaver, because then you can add value. And therefore, independently from pandemic and real life, you have to combine the old world and the new digital world. And totally convinced.
I agree with that too.
As long humans do business with humans. I mean, maybe at some point of time we have bots on both sides. Maybe, yeah. I guess there are some tendencies, to be honest, but yeah.
Yeah, I can't agree more.
Maybe
I mean, the pandemic brought a lot of pain to a lot of people, but at the same time, I am grateful for like being able to connect with so many people, but it's also taught me to be more active on LinkedIn, to like kind of let go of that. Not that I had a fear, but I think kind of just put myself out there more. And I'm hoping that, one day we can, because I love to travel and I love to meet new people, new cultures. I think that's why I left the United States to come live in Europe. So I hope we can go back to that one day soon, because it's great online, but it's not the same. It's not the same for sure.
Exactly right.
Now, what's one piece of advice? Because you've been giving great pieces of advice so far, but kind of a main piece of advice that you would give to other marketing managers or social selling program managers who are out there trying to get their feet on the ground or understand fully what they need to do?
Sure. I mean, it depends where you stand, if you already have a program or not. But let's start with the people who are thinking about to enter into such a program. Um, Especially when you're in such a regulated industry as we are in asset management,
Right.
then the good old Nike approach, just do it, is maybe not the best idea, I have to say, because it really can bring you into trouble. So the first thing, when you think about this topic, you really should check your internal policies and guidelines. Is there already a legal framework composed by someone, by legal and compliance or HR or someone else? Because it's tricky. And as just said, I mean, as a joke, I said there are 3 highly regulated industries in the world. One is military, the second one is pharma and healthcare, and then comes asset management. So just to give you an example, our people are not allowed to talk about our products on social media, which is for a salesperson in the beginning a bit odd. Because that's in the nature or in the DNA of a sales rep to talk about the products, right? On the other hand, it's good that it is so, because that's not the core of social selling to say, hi, I have the best product, please buy me. So therefore it's good. What is important? Find your allies within the company. Look for support from the top management. You need a supporter, especially in hierarchy-oriented companies. Then it's super crucial that you have someone from the board supports the whole project, and include all the relevant parties right from the start. For example, as said, the legals and compliance department. So don't see them as enemies. Try to integrate them into such a project. And afterwards, well, find your heroes within the program who can act as catalysts and ambassadors.
Yeah, that's really great advice. And I also, like, when I was doing research, as I mentioned before, social listening tools came up a lot. What is a social listening tool, and do they help sales team go one step further? What's your opinion on that?
Well, actually, I'm not so familiar with these social listening tools. It's more for social media marketing and communication when it comes to check what's going on with your brand on social media. What are the topics, of course. So we don't have a social listening tool for social selling, but if you want, so the sales navigator in a way is a kind of a social listening tool, because there you can do a lot of research, you can save some stuff, and you receive notifications from the tool, which are important for you if you want. So this is a social listening tool as well, yes. But not just TalkWalker or these stuff we don't have in place for social selling.
And from what I can gather, so Sales Navigator is a part of LinkedIn. It seems like you're a really big fan of LinkedIn. So is that your favorite social media tool to use for social selling? And kind of what works best for Allianz Global Investors with your B2B approach?
Well, as said, as I'm from the financial industry, let me state up front, I don't receive any kickback or any provision from LinkedIn, just to say this. But to be honest, Sales Navigator is a must-have tool today. I mean, if you have just a handful of existing clients, if you do not looking for new clients, if you have the chance to see your handful of clients daily or regularly, then of course, well, then no need. But for all others, I would say it's a must-have tool to find the right decision makers within the buying center of your clients. It gets inspiration because there is a big AI machine in the background. I mean, some people say it's not worth the price because it's not super cheap. It would say it's roughly €1,000 per license per year.
Wow!
So this sounds expensive, but now compare it with the average travel expenses of a standard sales rep from a year. So then it's nothing.
Yeah, exactly.
We have never thought about the contract of a mobile phone. I mean, it's at the end of the day, it's a coffee a day, and it's similar to a gym, to a membership of a gym.
Exactly.
If you don't go there and you just pay the money, then it's expensive. If you go there 3 times a week, super cheap.
It's worth it.
So it's similar with Sales Navigator. The second tool we have in use for the program is Hearsay Systems, which is a content library. where people can select content, adjust it, and then share it relatively easy.
Mm-hmm.
And at the same time, it's also a compliance monitoring tool, which is super important to avoid any issues for the brand or any issues for the single employee as well, by the way.
Right. Now,
these are the tools.
So I think we're going to wrap up this part about social selling to move on to another part of the interview. But I just want to ask before we do you have any resources that you would recommend for our listeners to learn more about social selling, or any like other tips or tools?
Well, there are a lot of books out there. And in the meantime, there are also a lot of coaches and consultants there, especially in the last 12 to 18 months. There is an inflation of social selling experts.
Okay.
You have to be a bit careful here and really check what their experience is. Have they worked for a big company or for a company similar to your company? For example, if you're located in EMEA, it's maybe not the best idea to go for a US-based one who has no idea what GDPR is, right? For example, the best source for learning about social selling is LinkedIn itself, the platform. And of course, also the company. I mean, they do a lot of stuff on LinkedIn Learning, and they do a lot of stuff. So the platform, when you use the search functionality of LinkedIn, go for social selling, you will find a lot. And then, I mean, the best inspirational source is you. You have to start within the given legal framework you're allowed to act in, and if you do so, then you will learn by yourself. That's actually the best thing to learn.
Exactly.
And I mean, you will not learn it within a week or so. It's not a theory concept. You have to do it, and you have to make your experience what kind of content works, which not, how to behave, how to comment, what's the best time. Is it maybe on a Sunday morning, or it's a Friday afternoon, or it's whatever. So yeah, actually learn with yourself if you want so.
Exactly. And it's kind of like life, right? We have to learn as we go. So we're always learning something new every day. Now,
I mean, what is good? Let me add this. If you have a mentor or so, when we started, we had a great guy who served as an external consultant for Allianz Group. In the meantime, Martin, by the way, greetings if you see this. It was a really a big help at the beginning, because he was so familiar with social and digital stuff, and I said I was completely new to it.
Right.
And nowadays we are good friends, and that was exactly great help. So thank you, Martin. So if you have the chance to find a mentor for this, that's good advice as well.
Now, on the content mix, I think it's an absolute joy of mine to be able to connect with people from, every week, and I get to pick their brains about kind of their success and what tips and tricks they would have to kind of be more productive, or to just things they do on a daily basis that would help them in their, perform better at work, or I don't know, kind of finding that life and work balance. So I'm going to pick your brain now, Oliver. And I kind of want to know, are there any daily habits that you would say attribute to your success that you would like to share, or?
Well, maybe the best advice is don't behave as I do, because a bit addicted to the platform, and I have a lot of arguments with my partner at home, because even on the sofa at the evening, still on LinkedIn, checking what's going on, what's new, and that's really a bit habit. I mean, social never sleeps. It's 24/7 online, everything, and some people think they miss something when they are not online every day, and it's so quite hard to step back for a certain period of time. I mean, for that reason, I've decided some years ago not to have a company mobile device, because I know exactly what will happen again, 24/7. So therefore, treat yourself a digital detox. LinkedIn will be there next week as well, and all the other social media outlets as well. So maybe it's the best advice I can give, because as I said, it's not the real life. In a way, yes, but I mean, you live in some bubbles always, in real life and in social much more. And
it's important to
you have to think about this.
Get out of your comfort zone a bit, not just be stuck on the phone. And the detox thing, I think, is so important, because our lives now are so consumed by technology. Now, another kind of theme throughout this interview has been the idea of the mentor, right? Or someone that you can look up to and learn from. So do you have any professional role model or a source of inspiration that kind of drives you to be the best every day?
Well, actually, I have to say, let me use this. That when I was a banker, my great hero was Alfred Herrhausen. He was the speaker of Deutsche Bank board at that time. By the way, he murdered then in the late 80s. But one of my most famous quotes is from him, and he has said, "Most time is lost by not thinking things to an end." And I have to say, it looks a bit old-fashioned in our agile world. Well, when people say you have to start and do this and that, but my experience is if you don't, you don't have to think 100%, but maybe 90 or so, at least 80. If you don't do so, you spend so much time and money and wasted it. So this was really a great guy, still great articles read from the old days. For social, I have to say, beside Martin, of course, there's not one person, but there's so many great people in my valued network, which I have created over the last 5 years from across the globe. Really social selling experts, coaches, social sellers from other companies, so really salespeople, our own people as well. But I would say it's not that one person; it's many. If I can add another source of inspiration from a different angle, if you're happy to still have your parents or you have kids, to say my father, he's 80, my daughter is 10. So different angles, but she started to consume influencer videos on YouTube. There are also influencers for teens. I was not aware of this. Yeah, exactly. And it was so amazing to see. And we had great discussions about them, how dangerous this is to believe that everything is true, what these people are saying. But this helps also to understand the more younger generation, which are more and more active on LinkedIn now as well. It's completely different to 5 years ago. So a lot of young people now there. So also these people from your real life are so important. Should act as a great inspirational source.
I really love that answer, because for me, like, my family is very important and they inspire me. Even though we work in totally different things and have had totally different life experiences, I think I always get the best advice from my parents and from my sister. So I think that's really important, and from my grandparents too. Now, we've talked a lot about LinkedIn, but do you have any other apps or tools or platforms that you like to use or would recommend?
Well, actually not. I mean, as you said, I'm not the tech guy, maybe. And especially when it comes to social selling, it's, as we have just discussed, it's a human thing. So oftentimes, also in content marketing or marketing in general, people use these fancy new state-of-the-art apps and forget the content and how to distribute it at the end of the day. And 2 years later, nobody talks about this app anymore because it's gone. So I still use PowerPoint. I still use Excel. I still use Word. So
me too. You got to stick to the basics.
I mean, there must be a reason why these three are still there, right? And I still use email. I mean, we have a lot of discussions also that Teams is there now. We don't need emails, and so not quite sure.
But
I guess still
can't forget the basics. I use Microsoft Word all the time, so it's important.
I mean, for private reasons, I have some apps on my mobile, but not for business.
For work. Now, we've come to the end of our interview, unfortunately, because I feel like we could have talked a lot more about all these topics, and I really want to thank you for all your insight. Now, do you have a final takeaway or parting advice that you'd like to give to our audience?
Well, actually, when it comes to LinkedIn, don't forget, we live in a bubble. You live in a bubble, especially when you're in social or on digital. That's not the real world. And my most loved example is cat videos. And I often ask people, do you think that cat videos should be on LinkedIn? And normally people say, no, of course not. It's more for Facebook or so. But my answer is, well, if you work for a company producing food for cats, or you're a doctor for animals, or you are in a marketing agency and your job is to create a new spot for cat food, of course, then maybe a cat video can be a great source for inspiration.
Exactly.
So not necessarily what you see on LinkedIn and you don't like it, others may do. And this is something we have in mind, respect other people's stuff. And there is also a tendency also on LinkedIn nowadays that people become a bit more aggressive than it was in the past. That's not such a good behavior. So be polite, respect other people's opinions. And when you start a discussion, do it in a good way, adding value, as said, that's maybe a good advice.
That's perfect. And now, so act like a human online. Don't just be, and push yourself, right, to leave your bubble and learn more and be more open-minded. I think that's really great.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. And stay authentic. I mean, stay true to your philosophy, which you have developed for your social attendance, and stay authentic, because this is why we are human and not bots.
Exactly. Still. We're all unique. Now, we all know that we can follow you and connect with you on LinkedIn, but are you active on any other platforms?
Well, I'm not on TikTok, and I just have an Instagram account, but don't use it. Actually, I'm a bit on Twitter, but not with my real name, just in my football bubble to support our local club, which are the Frankfurt club, the Eagles. This is a lot of fun, of course.
I bet.
Another source for arguments with my partner when I'm doing too much communication there with my friends there. But actually, the way to find me for business is on LinkedIn.
Well, again, Oliver, thank you so much for taking the time to join us today in the Content Mix. And I want to thank our audience for tuning in today. So for more perspectives, as always, on the content marketing industry in Europe, check out veracontent.com/mix and keep tuning in to the podcast for more interviews with content experts. We'll see you next time. Thanks, Oliver.
Thank you. Bye-bye.